This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, today we're featuring a wonderful gal that helps women with money. And I know that you probably don't have that problem if you're listening in our audience. But please, if you know somebody who does have trouble with money, please call them and tell them to listen to the show right now. And I would appreciate it. And before we talk to her, though, I've got to talk to Eric because I'm really concerned about something. Eric?
Good afternoon. Happy Friday, Kevin. What are we concerned about, sir?
I don't know what it was, but I saw this great big orange or yellow ball in the sky today. And it rains every day here. And I saw this thing. What is that thing that was in the sky today?
We're getting a little bit of a sun break, which is nice. We can dry out a little bit because we've got more rain expected this weekend, even a chance of a little bit of snow mixed in tomorrow. So enjoy the sunshine now and get ready for more of the liquid sunshine.
Oh, the bear of bad snow. Well, of course, it is December after all.
Absolutely, yeah. But it won't stick around because it'll be turning back to the liquid sunshine.
Well, good. And Eric, thank you very much for doing all you do at KKNW, and I really appreciate it. And I would like to add a public service announcement. I was telling Eric before the show began that we work very hard, and his sister station at KKNW, this is of course Kixie, and I just wanted to compliment you guys that on KKNW you have got the coolest format because you've got independent broadcasters that do the thing on their own time, their own dime, and it allows for a lot of people to do some great stuff. So please support Kixie, please support KKNW. I'm asking you nicely.
Fantastic. Yeah, we absolutely love all our listeners. And hey, a good time to wish everybody happy holidays as well.
It is indeed. It is indeed, because we're going to have happy holidays. And the gal that we have that we're going to be talking to this hour, she can help you have happy holidays because she can help you keep money where it's supposed to be, not in somebody else's pocket, but maybe in your pocket even. Her name is Patti Handy. She's been on the show before, but I wanted to have her back because she is such a delight, and she's very accomplished at what she does, and she helps you understand how to work with money in a way that maybe you haven't ever thought of before. So Patti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you as well. And if you're out there and you are a woman who's newly single for whatever reason, be it the death of your spouse or a divorce, or you just choose to be single, a lot of times you look at your bank statement and you go, what is all this? Or you look at your portfolio and you have no earthly idea what any of it means. They say words in there that or abbreviations that you have no idea what they are or how they implicate things, or maybe you have a credit card that you don't understand how that works, and the compound interest and all the things that can all of a sudden you're making a minimum payment and you owe more than you did before you made the payment. That can happen too. And Patti is a financial coach. She helps women transform their finances and in addition to that, because they are intimately intertwined, so that they can achieve financial security and, most importantly, peace of mind. So Patti, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here again.
Indeed. And how often, I know that in your bio that you had an 18-month-old baby and your husband decided that he wanted to walk out of the marriage, and then you were all by yourself. So you have lived what you talk about in the writings that you do and the work that you do and the coaching and the circles that you have and all of that. So it's really good to have someone like you within their corner. If somebody wants to work with you, where does it start? Does it start with, I don't know anything, I have no idea what I'm doing yet, I've never managed money before, but now I've got to manage my own money and I need help? Is that where it starts?
Sometimes, I start where they want me to start. So oftentimes clients will come to me with what you just expressed. I don't know what I'm doing. My husband just passed away. I have no idea where to even start. This is overwhelming and it's scary, and help. And then I have those that are potentially a bit more comfortable with finances, and they're just needing some assurance that they're on the right path and that they're doing the right things. They've got things in check, kind of retirement planning. So it's really the gambit, but more times than not, it's individuals who are, overwhelmed and just afraid of the financing, the investing that world in itself. And they just need some financial education to get comfortable with it, which is what I'd love to do. And then they get to do their own investing if they choose. And if they decide to go to a financial advisor, then they can go in much more empowered and ask the right questions. And when the financial advisor is starting to talk to you, you're going to understand what it is they're saying, and feel more comfortable with asking the right questions. So
That's really a cool thing if you can understand what they're saying. It's like talking to a lawyer. They've got a whole different language sometimes that they use when we're talking about managing money and stuff. And I can't, I cannot imagine the fear and anxiety that it would, if you just lost your husband or they just had a divorce and he was the one who managed the money. You might not even know where all your money is and or how it all works. And so it can be really frightening, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you're dealing with the emotional trauma of your loss, whether it's a divorce or a passing of a spouse. So you're trying to just stay above water and trying to deal with your grief and your sadness. The last thing you want to do is try to figure out your money, and especially if you didn't handle it before. But it's one of those things that you've got to address. May not necessarily need to do it immediately, depending upon the situation. I always encourage, gals to put off, what they can. It's not a great, it's never a great move to make any big choices when it comes to your money when you're financially distraught. You're just not, thinking clearly. And I can speak from experience with that. You're just trying to get through the day, and trying to make a big financial decision is not really in the, uh, conversation at that point. But in some cases, you have to make a decision if it's, certain things that do require, they're time sensitive. So.
Well, one of those would be, I would think, now to help me with this, if you lose a spouse and they've got life insurance and suddenly you have to negotiate through that with the life insurance company, and then you get this check and you have no idea what to do with the check. That would be a bit of a problem, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully you have a good insurance agent that can kind of help you navigate getting the paperwork and getting that check, in a timely fashion. And then what to do with it. Yes. And everyone's situation is so different and personal. I can't really say, oh, a blanket statement, you should do this with your money. It just depends on what kind of debt you have, what you're looking at, how old you are, what your risk tolerance is, the time horizon you have to retire. If you're, unfortunately a younger widow in your 30s, and you have more time to, let that money work for you and put it in the market. Generally speaking, I say try to get out of debt if you've got credit card debt. I don't always say pay off the home. That's going to depend on the interest rate and the entire, their entire situation. It's again, it's a very personal strategy. But yeah, absolutely. The last thing you want to do is put that money into a checking account earning you nothing, and letting it sit there for 6 months. So that's a problem. Money market accounts are earning much better than that these days. So if you absolutely have to park it somewhere, I would say, a money market account would be a good consideration. But again, that's going to depend on the situation. It's very personal.
Well, and You talked about mortgages and things, and right now the interest rates have pretty much doubled. They were down in the 3.5% range a couple of years ago. Now I've been told they've been 7-8%. So you can actually sell your house, buy another house, and end up paying more because you're not getting you're spending more money than you want to on interest and stuff. So that's valuable information right there to have, isn't it?
Yeah, you absolutely want to look at the interest rate. I actually personally I forget what year it was. It was a few years ago, but I got a 2.625% on a 30-year fixed on my home
That's
when I
good.
refinanced. So that's such cheap money to me. I don't, it doesn't make any sense for me to ever pay that off until obviously, 30 years later. But to pay it off in advance doesn't make a lot of sense. I can put that in the market, even in the bond market or today's money market accounts. I'm earning more than that. But if you're, today's rates are, I think, in the high sixes. They were in the sevens. And they were down into the mid twos way back in the day when it was like, super low. I shouldn't say way back in the day. We're probably talking, 3-4 years ago. But again, it depends on the entire situation. But if they have a mortgage at 3 or 4%, it may not make sense to make any accelerated payments on that. If they've got a mortgage at 7-8%, then we'd have, that's the conversation. If you're renting and you want to buy, do you use that money to buy a home for a down payment? Again, that's kind of a calculation that we have to go through. What other assets do they have? What other, do they have children that they have to put through college? I mean, there's so many pieces of that puzzle to determine the best use of those funds.
Do you find that a lot of people get into their 50s and perhaps even 60 years of age and really haven't prepared for their retirement at all?
I've seen the gambit. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's, unfortunately, there are quite a bit of individuals who haven't prepared. I think the most painful thing to see is someone who never really took advantage of a 401k when they were employed.
Mhm.
And, with that, you had the employer match, which is basically free money. And if they never took advantage of that, they never got to experience the compounding of the interest and the compounding of that growth in the account. And it was typically, from what I hear people say, it was like, well, I needed the money. I need to be able to, to live and pay my bills. So I can't put that money into a retirement account. When in reality, they probably could have, and, re-examined what they have going out. For the most part, again, everyone's situation is different. I can't make a blanket statement. But yeah, those without a 401k or any kind of retirement plan, it's definitely a challenge, and they're just going to have to, work longer. It's highly likely that their Social Security will not pay their bills. If they wait till 70, they're going to, be able to take the highest, payout for the Social Security, and they might need to continue to work, into their 70s. And again, that just depends on what the situation is. But I've seen the gambit. I've seen some people who are extremely prepared and are sitting on a nice portfolio and very comfortable, and then I've seen, the other side of it.
I've seen a lot of statistics based upon Social Security. I want to talk about a little bit, and that is that a lot of people are taking their retirement. You can take retirement early at as early as 62. Now, full retirement for somebody my age is 66 6 months. If you take it at 62, what's your stance on that? Would you advise somebody to wait and have it continue to grow, or take it as early as possible, or wait till 70?
Yeah, again, that's going to depend. Overall, it makes sense to wait till you're 70. For every year that you let that grow from 62 to 70, it grows 8%. You're guaranteed 8% growth every year. And then you have the COLA adjustment on top of that, the cost of living adjustment. So you can't get that guarantee in the market. So if at all possible, you should absolutely wait until 70. Now, the caveat to that is if you have a medical condition and God forbid you have a your doctor tells you you've got 2 years to live, or something like that, then by all means, take it early. So that's the situation where I would say, yeah, take it at 62. I don't ever recommend 62 other than that kind of situation. So most people think, well, the sooner I get it, the more I can use it and I can put it to, put it in the market and this and that. But if you do the math, and there's all kinds of statistics out there that kind of walk you through that, but the long and short of it is that the break-even period is about 82, 83 years old. So that if you are living past that age of 82, 83, it makes more sense to wait until you're 70. If you, again, have a shorter lifespan for whatever reason, then you've got to reevaluate that. The other piece is if you're married and your spouse is the higher income earner, you always want to wait on the higher income earner to wait until they're 70, because if your spouse passes away, who is that higher income earner, you'll get what their benefit is. So if the higher earner gets at 70, you'll have that, so that the spouse that is left isn't going to be in dire straits. So again, there's many calculations to why it makes sense. And if at all possible, I always say wait till 70. It does not make any sense to wait past 70. There's no improvement and there's no change. So once you hit 70, jump on it.
Well, and the other thing is, women statistically live longer than men. So it is, and even though for some reason the lifespans have been shortening of late a little bit, but still women live on an average of like 4 or 5 years longer than men do.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit longer than that even.
Terrific. Thank you.
But but yeah, I mean, things just change. I mean, yeah, things change, certainly have changed in the last few years with what's happening in the world. But yeah, and so in the case, like I was saying, if your husband is the higher income earner and he waits till he's 70, the wife gets to get that higher benefit for the rest of her life. If she was a stay-at-home mom and didn't really have much of a Social Security benefit, that's going to really benefit her quite a bit if he waits till 70.
So if somebody wants to work with you, what information do you recommend that they have prepared so that you can go through it all with them? I assume their bank statements would be one, their portfolio if they have it, a 401k, insurance policies, maybe, on all of those things.
Yeah, we look at everything. We look at the bank statements, we look at credit card statements. We want to get a good understanding of what's coming in, what's going out. I have them put together a budget or spending kind of plan. I give them an Excel spreadsheet to help them if they don't have something already. Some individuals like the online tools, and that's fine as well. But we want to really get a handle on what's coming in and what's going out, because oftentimes that cash flow, whether it's positive or negative, is things that we can look at in terms of opportunity to invest, pay down debt, whatever the case might be. So we definitely want, again, bank statements, portfolio, 401k with the firm you're at, any other kind of investment assets, whether it's insurance or your home. If you've got a mortgage statement, we look at that to say, take a look at your interest rate, look at impounds. We look at really everything to get a very high level holistic view of what's going on. And then depending upon what they want, if the client says, oh, I've got a portfolio that's, rock solid, but I've got this credit card debt that I just can't get a hold of, help me with this. And then we'll take a look at that and we'll go through, again, they're spending, sometimes depending upon the situation, I'll ask for like 3 months worth of bank statements. I want to see where that money's been going for the last 3 months, because oftentimes that, is like a leak in a boat. They don't realize that it's slipping through, but it is. And then suddenly you're like, oh gosh, I just spent $400 this month on, this or that they didn't realize. And if they're in credit card debt, that can go towards paying that off. So oftentimes that just awareness is a great place to start.
How many people in your work that you've talked to don't understand how credit cards work?
It's interesting. I think the vast majority do. However, they don't understand the power of the compounding and how it's working against it or against them. We talk about compounding interest usually when we talk about investing and savings and how that grows for you. But it works against you in a very big way because the interest rate on those cards are, double digits, and they're ugly, and there's no tax benefit from keeping those debts. So it is clearly a bad debt. And when we do the numbers and when we say, this awesome sale that you got on this laptop that's normally a $2,000 laptop, and you got it on sale for $1,000 that you put on your credit card, and you're making the minimum payment, and I'll go through an example, and I'll say, this is going to cost you, $3,000 in the end, because you're only paying the minimum payment and you've paid this much in interest. And I'm just throwing numbers out, but it's more than the $2,000 that the original price was. So you never got a real good deal. You've wasted that sale if you put it on credit card debt and you just make that minimum payment. So we'll do some of those calculations, and they'll always be like, holy Toledo, I had no idea.
Why do credit cards do this? Credit card companies, when they establish a monthly minimum payment, that minimum payment is never enough to meaningfully cut down on the debt. Most of it goes to interest, doesn't it?
Right. Yes. Well, if they're, paying 20, 30% interest, it's going to be years and years and years. And it's a money game. I mean, it's a money earner for them. These credit card companies are banking that interest, and it's not the responsibility of the credit card company to manage these people's money. So it's up to the individual to understand how that works, and to say, okay, well, I'm not giving this credit card company my hard-earned money, and let's figure out to get this thing paid off like now. But it's it's kind of like a bank who charges late fees or overdraft fees. It's like, it's not their responsibility to make sure that you don't overdraft. But they love those fees. That's what helps the bank statements, get padded. I should say the bank statements, the banks, that's part of their income.
One of the things that I see happening all the time is you walk into a major department store and you're about ready to go to the checkout. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that the cashier asks you is, hey, would you like to get a credit card? Yeah. So you say, well, you'll save 10% on this purchase if you open up a credit card account with us today. And you say, well, 10%, that's I'm going to buy $150 worth of stuff. That's $15. That's a good deal. Is it?
No, absolutely not.
In a word.
No. Yeah. In a word, no. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is the credit bureaus don't like department stores or kind of retail stores. So it doesn't really benefit your credit score. They don't like those kinds of cards. The other thing is that when you have that credit card, you're more likely to do impulse shopping because you have that credit card open. So if there's a sale going on and you walk by the store and you're like, oh, I got a card for this store, let's go in. And, so it's like that impulse shopping is more likely to happen. And so, yeah, I always say no. Now, the one caveat to that is if you were to buy a very large ticket item, like you need a new refrigerator, or you need a dishwasher, or you need something that is, a couple $1,000s, and you walk into a Best Buy or Lowe's or Home Depot, or wherever you go to buy this item, and they're going to offer you 10 or 20% off based on that very high ticket item, then I would say that's probably something that you might want to entertain, only if you know you can pay it off in full when the credit card comes. If you don't have the funds to pay it off in full, be wary. But if you can pay it off in full, yeah, throw it on there and save yourself a few $100 because that's worth it. And just be mindful that you just don't use that card unless you absolutely have to for whatever else you're going shopping for.
The one of the insidious things about credit and usages is when you have a company that says you don't have to make a payment for 18 months.
Ooh, those are the worst. Those are the worst.
That's a problem, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. What they don't tell you, you have to read the fine print, is that interest is accruing. Now you're not paying it, but it's accruing. And if you're one day late at the end of the 18 months, that interest is all, accumulated. So you've got to make sure you understand the terms and conditions of that purchase. I think there's different rules and different, with different companies, but for the most part, buy now, pay laters are a big no-no.
Well, there's a reason why they do that, because they're successful at doing two things: raising sales, number one, and then they oftentimes get the money on the back end anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these people aren't it's not their first rodeo. They know what they're doing.
Well, the interesting thing is there are studies upon studies upon studies of how these things work, and there's a whole marketing aspect that they use of human behavior that
Mhm.
they use against us in many ways, because
Yeah.
we think it's a good deal, but if we don't look at the fine print, it's not such a good deal anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to read that fine print to understand exactly what's going on. It's kind of like buying a car too. It's like there's so many nuances of, if you're listing a car versus paying a car, or buying it outright or whatever. There's so many moving parts, and you've got to just take your time. Don't feel rushed. Make sure you understand that before you sign the dotted line and sign up for that, because that can backfire on you in a big way.
We're going to talk about that when we come back from this break, because there is something in the car, especially the new car dealership industry, that I would like to shed a little bit of light on. And it's called the notorious second sticker. When we come back, we're talking with Patti Handy. She's a financial coach, primarily works with women, but I'll bet you she'll work with anybody. And we're going to come back from this break in just a moment, so stay with us. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio right here on KIXI.
Do you need to boost your sales? Join our partnership program. Each quarter, we promote 10 partner businesses. What will you get? The company will produce one 30-second video for your business. Your website links on positivetalkradio.net and kmmedia.pro. One dedicated podcast or radio show per month. One video Instagram reel. One YouTube short. One 60-second clip for social media taken from your interview, and at least one commercial airplay per show. All podcast and video commercials are within the fabric of the show and will remain in the show forever. Visit kmmedia.pro to book a consultation today.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal.
For being our appreciated listener, you can use promo code PTR20 at checkout to receive 20% off your order.
anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
We believe in the power of telling your stories. We want to help yours be seen and heard. At the Pacific Northwest Collaborative Magazine, our purpose is to connect you to your community. Let's begin by celebrating the accomplishments of local artists featured in this brand new digital magazine. Here, you can learn about opportunities to creatively come together and support our local community and neighbors through the gift of art and service. If your business or organization would like to take part in this magazine, message us on Instagram at pnw.collab. You can download our free digital magazine at KM Media Pro today.
Thank you to our dedicated fans. We are updating our live on-air schedule to make it super easy for you to hang out with us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, and live on Fridays with Kixie 880 a.m. Seattle Live. You can find our library to binge all the podcast platforms. We can't wait to see you at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting September 4th, Labor Day 2023.
And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. My name is Kevin McDonald, and you're listening to KIXI 880, and we're so happy to be here. I gotta tell you, I just love being on the radio on a Friday at 3 o'clock when everybody's traveling in their car. So let's talk about cars a little bit with our guest for the hour. Her name is Patti Handy, and she is a financial coach primarily for women who may end up in a situation where their spouses either left or passed away, and they're suddenly tasked with being able to handle all of their own money, and it can be quite a daunting thing when you are suffering from grief and all of a sudden all these bills are coming in and you got to figure out how to make it work and stuff like that. So Patti would be a great person to talk to and can give you a little bit of peace of mind on what's going on with her. And if you go to her website, which is really easy, it's Patti with an I handy.com. That's Patti with an I handy.com. Patti, it's great to see you. How you doing?
Thank you. Doing great. Having a fun conversation here.
I gotta tell you that I had an experience at a new car dealership, and and I got, if you are a car dealer or a salesman that's in the audience, I know this isn't you, that you would never do these things, but there's something that I went to a car dealership. And there is the suggested retail value sticker that is on every new car, and it says what you're paying and so forth. A lot of times there'll be a second sticker that is over the top of the first sticker. And tell me, Patti, if you found this in your experience. And what they do is they add that second sticker of all these things that they say you're going to be getting in addition to the car, and so you end up paying not the suggested retail value, but you end up paying that plus the second sticker, which could be substantial. It could be in the several thousands of dollars. And I went to a dealership and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not paying the second sticker. And they said, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, well, I'm not paying the second sticker. I'm paying suggested retail value from the manufacturer, and that's what I'm going to pay. And so we went into her office, and she started working the math on a little, legal pad. And she didn't put the second sticker in there, but she blended it into the suggested retail value, hoping that I wouldn't catch the fact that she was blending them together. And she showed me the numbers, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not paying that. And she said, well, we do this and we do this, and that's why you got to do this and so forth. And then there was the pressure came. The sales manager came over and said, you got to do this because this is what we need, and we're not making any money on this car at all. And by the way, they all make money on cars. Don't ever let anybody tell you differently. And so I left the dealership. Went into another dealership who also had a second sticker, and I was talking with the sales gal, and I said, by the way, just so you know, while we're at the very beginning of this negotiation, I'm not paying the second sticker. She said, okay, we'll charge you suggested retail value. They still made money on me. Do you find that is a insidious little trick that they use to get more money out of you?
Well, I can't speak from experience. Honestly, I don't deal in the car space, as far as the financial coaching side. I can just say that, having bought a car in my life, it's always a challenge. It is a, half day jaunt of angst. But yes, I mean, they're going to try to get whatever they can from you. And it's up to us to just be mindful, like you were aware of it, you were attentive to the details, and you didn't, allow them to, push you around, which was great. And if you are buying a car and it's not something that you love to do and you're just intimidated by the whole process, take a friend who is very seasoned.
Yep.
and who can negotiate for you and, play good guy, bad guy kind of thing, if need be. But there's definitely a process and a science of how they do what they do. And I bought a car. It's been a number of years now, but it was a wonderful experience. It was, pretty clear cut. So not every experience is a challenging one, but you've got to be on your game.
And never tell, here's another tip. Never tell them, oh, I love this car. I have to have this car. This is my dream car. I've never had a car like this. I really, 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 really want this car. Yeah. They hear you say that and they say, oh, I got this one. Because they can then add some stuff, some bells and whistles and things like that. So, and the other thing that I would suggest is never walk onto a car dealership and buy a car. You walk on, you do the negotiation, then you say, well, thank you, I'll think about it. Then you come back, or they'll call you. They always call you, and they say, well, I got a deal for you. It's amazing that this just happened, that the manufacturer said you could do this, and we can do this, and we can work it this way. So we're going to save you $2,000. Come on back. And it's amazing how that works. So never buy a car the first time you walk onto a lot. Always wait, and then you'll see good things will happen.
Yeah, smart. Yeah, definitely.
But we're talking with Patti, and we're talking about primarily women and their finances. And what got you? You were in the corporate world for a long time. What got you into doing financial coaching for women?
I was in corporate banking prior to having my son. And then when I had my son, I was out of work because I chose to be at home and raise him. And then when he was 18 months, as you had mentioned at the top of the show, I went through a divorce, and I had to figure out what to do quickly in terms of just, generating income. So I got into the mortgage business. I was a mortgage advisor for many, many years, which allowed me to work at home and have some flexibility with my schedule, because my first and foremost, desire was to be at home with my son. He already lost his dad full time. I didn't want to lose his mom full time. So it was a fantastic industry for many, many years. But I had a desire to go deeper with my clients, and the mortgage business is a little bit more transactional. So I got into financial planning, and I was a financial advisor for a little bit. Really enjoyed that, had the wonderful conversations and had those deep relationships, which I really enjoyed. But during that time, and while I was in the mortgage business, I had lots of conversations with ladies over those many years, 20 years combined between the two positions. And many of them who were widowed or divorced were very, typically they were embarrassed. They had a lot of shame around their situation. They just, didn't like the fact that they didn't understand money or investing. Husbands took care of it, and they just didn't really ever care to learn. And now they're like in the situation. And I heard that over and over and over again. So I decided to do something about it. I left my firm earlier this year in early 2023, and decided to become a financial coach, where I was able to make more of an impact and speak to different, sides of that journey that I couldn't do as a financial advisor. So it's been wonderful. I feel like I'm able to make a bigger difference with more women.
And that's really an important thing, because it can be really intimidating for if you're not used to handling money and dealing with interest and the banks and the credit cards and all of the things that you have to deal with day to day. These bills can start showing up, and you have no idea how you even got them, and they're here. So you really have got to be careful in a lot of different areas, don't you?
Absolutely. And when it comes to your portfolio, and I've actually had clients in the past who know where their assets were. Husband took care of everything. They passed away suddenly. And suddenly they've got to figure out where everything is, where's the paperwork, where are the accounts, they have no idea what they have. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're really like behind, that the curtain. And so it's unwinding all that. Now, a lot of that comes, with the help of whether it's a financial advisor or maybe an attorney or a CPA that's helping them navigate this situation, or family members who are helping them kind of unpack all that. So I always tell people, even if you're happily married, please make sure you share where everything is. Make sure that you share, every PIN code number, every passcode. Have a Excel spreadsheet or put it in somewhere in the computer. Have it documented so that if, God forbid, one or the other passes, they don't have to go looking all around where everything is, and they know exactly where to go and how to get into those accounts. But to your point, yes, it's like, okay, I've got this money now, and I don't know how to manage it. I'm not sure how to diversify this or what funds to put this in. And if you're working with an advisor, it's fantastic. If that advisor knew both husband and wife together and they know the relationship, more times than not, stay with that advisor. They know the story, they know your portfolio, they know the history, and that's wonderful. But if you're on your own, it is, very overwhelming. It can be very scary to just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do here.
And to highlight that point just a little bit, my mother passed away 2 years ago, Well, she was 90 and she had a great life, and she played bridge on that Wednesday. She went out to dinner on that Thursday, and then they found her Saturday morning. So
Oh, wow.
it was just one of those things. If you gotta go, that's the way to go. And
Yeah.
and my sister had been talking to her for years because she had a reasonably large portfolio, and we'd been trying to get her to talk to my sister, who was the executor of the estate when my mom passed away, and she just wouldn't do it. She was in her late 80s and she just didn't feel comfortable and that kind of stuff. And so my sister had to become a master detective to figure out where everything was, and it was very stressful for her.
Oh,
And
God.
one of the things she didn't do was, my mother had a box that said CDs on it. And we had a bunch of boxes in the living room because we were going to give them away or send them. And so it said CDs on it. So I opened the box, and there was a couple of CDs on top. And I took the top shelf away, and underneath that was an envelope. In that envelope was $35,000 in savings bonds that nobody knew about and were just there. So if you are alone, if you're older and you have got the executive of your estate or a close relative, let them know where everything is, because we almost took that box and threw it in the garbage.
Wow.
Which would have been a travesty for everybody concerned. So it's important. It's not something to be delayed. It's like doing your will. You got to do your will. And I know that you work with people to get all of those things, at least to bring them up to folks, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of doing a living trust, an estate plan. I think that it is so important to have not just the finances addressed, but the power of attorney, the medical directive, all those things in place, so that if, God forbid, something were to happen and you had to have somebody make a decision for you, and you're on your own, you've got to have that person be able to help and guide you. And when it comes to your mom, it's a very common situation where they don't want to tell their kids how much they have, and they want to keep it a secret and whatever. It is so important to do that, because your sister now had to spend so much time unpacking it while she's mourning the loss of her mom. And it's like, okay, I don't really want to do this right now. I want to just deal with life. But yeah, that had to happen. I have not had this experience personally, but I've heard of other people who have known individuals who put cash in a box and buried it in their backyard.
That
And
happens all the time.
There's cash buried. Well, guess what? If you don't tell anybody it's there, that's just a shame, because some neighbor is going to be doing, something, 50 years from now, or the new homeowner or whatever, and they're going to be, lovely surprised. But that's not the intent of that. That intent, I'm sure, is to go to the, the beneficiaries. So yeah, just disclose everything as much as you possibly can.
Well, how many times have you heard a story about, we bought this house 5 years ago and decided to remodel this room, and so we were taking down the wall, and there was a bunch of money in there, and in between the wall and somebody had taken that. They thought they were being safe, but their kids sold the house. They're long gone. They had no idea, and all this money showed up. And so,
isn't that crazy?
Well, and plus the fact, when you get a little older, you get a little protective of yourself, and you don't trust very many people. But it really is important to pick somebody that you can trust, that is your family member, and don't share. You don't need to share with everybody, but somebody needs to know where everything is, so that when that day comes, and oh, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Patti, but that day comes for all of us at one point.
It does. And oftentimes that day comes when we're still alive, because we have dementia or Alzheimer's, and they wouldn't remember that they had that money behind the wall or buried in their backyard. So to avoid that that issue as well, and there's another reason to do that. I'll share a resource with you. I'm not an affiliate, and there's nothing I benefit, but it's something that I personally use, and I think it's fantastic. I will premise this with full disclosure that you've got to do your own due diligence and make sure that this is right for you. But there is a resource out there called Everplans. So it's just everplans.com, and it allows you, it's basically a digital safety deposit box in the sky. And you're able to upload pretty much anything and everything. You upload your living trust, all your documents, all your paperwork, all your passcodes, all your everything. So if you want to say, hey kids, check the backyard right between the oak tree and the flower bushes, dig down, you got a box of cash, or whatever it is you want to say. And no one can access that until you pass. You can assign a deputy, and that deputy only has access to that when you say they can. So if you decide no one's to know anything until I pass, you can state that. Or you can say, if I'm incapacitated or whatever, that person, then the deputy, is then able to access the Everplans and all the records, everything that they've uploaded. And people upload pictures and recipes and personal letters to loved ones and all kinds of things. So it's a cool resource, but it's also just a really cool way to stay really super organized. And I mean, you put your passcode to your phone on there, you put to the laptop, to everything. So there's no fumbling around the world and trying to figure everything out. But it's a really cool, and I think it's super cheap. I mean, last time I checked, it was like $100 a year. But again, do your due diligence, check it out yourself, call them, email them, do that, homework. But it's a cool resource. And again, no one can tap into that knowledge until you're gone. So
what's it called again?
Everplans.com.
Everplans.com. I'd check it out and make a fun game out of it. You can build a treasure map and put the treasure map up online, and then X marks the spot, and that's where the money that I buried in the backyard is.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely so much you can do with this. And the nice thing is, if you don't need to sit there and do it all in one sitting, because it's a pretty monumental task. So you dedicate an hour here or there, and you upload certain things, and then the next day you can upload more things, and you can take things out, add it. You can always change it, but I think it's cool if you want to leave, love notes or things to loved ones. You can do that, and you just, anything you want and need, you just upload it there.
And I want to highlight this because the longer that you've been on the planet, sometimes you have experiences that can be beneficial for other folks. And I had one with my father, who had cancer surgery and then had a stroke in the hospital.
Oh my!
He lost his ability to speak, swallow, and he was partially paralyzed.
Oh my God.
And so the doctors, bless their heart, they want to keep him alive and so forth, but he couldn't eat. He couldn't swallow. So they wanted to put a feeding tube in him to keep him alive. Well, he had specific instructions about taking extraordinary means to save his life. He did not want to have any of that done, but because they didn't have that on file at the hospital at the time that he was there, they were going to go through and do that anyway. So my mother had to run home and grab the document and bring it to the hospital. Otherwise, they would have just gone ahead and done that. So those things they're really, you might think about it as being morbid, that you're talking about your end of life and what you want to have happen or what you don't want to have happen. But it is really important that your relatives know what your wishes are, and the hospital as well, because they'll take action on their own sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why the estate plan is so important, because it includes all of that, the medical directive and the power of attorney and your wishes. And if you have specific wishes, like, do not resuscitate me, don't put me on a feeding tube or life support, or, whatever your case is, if you want to be cremated or, whatever it is, it's important that your loved ones know what you want, and it's followed through. But if they don't know, then they don't know.
Well, and he was one step away from being on a feeding tube. He could not watch TV because he didn't. Cognitively, he was gone basically. But they would have done that, and he would have lived a couple of years in a bed somewhere, and he didn't want that. And if you don't, so make your wishes clear and shout at the mountaintops if you need to, because sometimes those types of things happen.
Yeah. That's it's a sad story, but it drives it home. You've got to just really have that, and don't wait until you're older. I mean, that kind of stuff happens to people of all ages, unfortunately. So,
I just conducted an interview with a gal about a gal who had a child, and when he was 2 years old, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she was gone in 9 months.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
and she was in her mid 30s. So that
Mhm.
it can happen at any age. So
Yeah.
don't put off what you don't want to talk to your family and friends about until it's too late,
Yeah.
because then there's nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's end the show on a happy note.
Let's do that, shall we? Let's well, and actually, from my perspective, and this is just me, but from my perspective, any knowledge that we can give people that can help them negotiate this thing that we call life, that can be really, really complicated at times,
Yeah. Yeah.
the financial stuff, the end of life stuff, the wills, and all that kind of good stuff, and that's why we have people like you. That can help us get through some of that and make it a little bit easier and give us peace of mind. And I know that's what you're all about.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's even aside from the financial side, as we talk about this end of life and potentially the legacy that we want to leave to our loved ones, um, it's about the quality of our life while we're here as well. We're always going to be given speed bumps. We're always going to be dealing with things in our life. We're going to go through seasons of challenge, seasons of ease. It's just life, right? So if we can find a way to, when we're in that season of challenge, um, look at somehow in that very challenging period, um, what is the lesson in this? What's the opportunity for me to become a stronger, wiser, better person where I can serve somebody down the road with this knowledge now? And it's hard in that moment. I've been there, done that. So I understand when you're in the heat of the moment, it's like, oh, forget that. I'm trying to just figure out life right now. But versus, playing the victim role and, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? Figure out a way to learn something from that and then turn that around and, always believe in miracles. Always know that, it's you and a higher power that's co-creating your life, whether you believe in God or the universe or whoever it is that your higher power is. Fall back on that and know that they're taking care of you, and you just can't sit back and let that just happen. You've got to be an active individual in your own life, of course, but try to become a little bit more proactive in that quality of life, because like you said, life is short. That young mom who passed away in her 30s, I mean, that's just a
It-
sad.
but but it happens. But
Yeah.
and Patty, you're absolutely right. If you take your life as it's in total and you do a paradigm shift, and rather than say, oh, woe is me, look at the victim that I am and what's happening to me here, you can make that paradigm shift and say, gee whiz, that was interesting. What am I supposed to learn from this? How
Mhm.
can I live my life a little bit better, a little bit more effectively, given the fact that nobody, I don't care who you are, nobody has got a perfect, rainbows and sunshine life from beginning to end. It's got ups and downs. It's designed that way because we're all supposed to live and a little bit better, learn from our challenges and also the good things that happen to us. And like on your website, I was looking at pictures of you and your son from when
Mm.
he was a little big guy now, and he's beautiful. He's a handsome man,
Thank
and
you.
it's you've done a beautiful job taking care of him.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Kevin. I'm very proud of him. He's a beautiful human inside and out. He's got a great heart, and he's just a good human. So I'm very happy. I'm very proud, and he just got engaged, so I'm even happier.
Congrats! And I know you probably love the girl he's engaged to.
I love her. I could not love her more. I could not have picked better. She is perfect for him, and she's just oh my gosh, I'm so blessed. Yeah.
Well, and bless you, Patty, because I hope that everybody that's listening to this will be able to say, and by the way, it's within your power to do it. Sometimes you need help. Get a coach. And if you need financial advice, get that done. But everybody has got the opportunity to live your life, and at the end of the day, be able to say, "I was so blessed." I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, I agree.
Patti Handy has been our guest, and go to Patti with an I, handy.com and find out all about her. Give her a call. She'd be really good to work with. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. My name is Kevin McDonald. This is Positive Talk Radio. And by the way, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you Monday on KKNW.